Rare 5 True Unsolved Tragic Cases in History. It has been our duty to unravel the cause of a problematic event in the society. Doing so would help to provide a permanent solution to the cause, thereby preventing history from repeating itself. We, as humans, have successfully broken into secrets in the sea and in space, even before the advent of sophisticated technology. That is why it is very chilling to hear that there are disturbing tragic cases in the society that remain unsolved, even for years. These are 5 out of those unsolved cases. Let's begin with one of the stories that makes you blame and pity the victim. Number 5. The disappearance of Lars Mittank, the world's most famous missing tourist. In 2014, a 28-year-old German man recognized as Lars Mittank went on a trip with his friends in Varna, Bulgaria. The group stayed at the Golden Sands Resort on the Black Sea coast. It was during the trip Lars would engage in a fight with some group of men over trivial arguments on soccer clubs in a night bar. Mittank left the bar before his friends did. They didn't see him till the next morning. When he was seen, he informed them he had been beaten and had sustained an injury on his jaw and a ruptured eardrum. He went to see a local doctor, where he was prescribed 500 milligrams of the antibiotic cefprozil to prevent his wounds from becoming infected and also fast-forwarding his healing. He was also told to stay behind while his friends headed home because of his injury. Mittank's friends offered to delay their return until he healed up, but Lars urged them not to and scheduled a later flight. He checked into a hotel near the airport, and this is where he began to exhibit strange, erratic behavior. The hotel's CCTV footage captured Lars Mittank hiding inside the elevator and leaving the building at midnight, only to return hours later. Lars would later call his mother, whispering that people were trying to rob or kill him. He also texted her, asking about his medication and to block his credit cards. On July 8, 2014, the day he had planned for departure, Mittank entered Varna Airport, where he consulted the airport physician to check up on his injuries. The doctor told Mittank he could fly, but Mittank remained uneasy. According to the physician, Mittank looked nervous and asked him questions about the medication he was taking. During an interruption by an airport worker, Mittank, who was alone, was overheard saying, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." What followed was the CCTV footage of Lars running outside the airport without his bags and luggage. He is seen climbing over the airport fence, and once on the other side, he disappeared into a nearby forest, and that was the last time Lars Mittank would be seen. The CCTV video of him became viral after he was declared missing. Despite thorough search parties and years of investigation from the BKA, Germany's Federal Criminal Police Office, Mittank remains missing to this day. It had been suggested that Lars Mittank suffered from psychosis, but that does not explain why Mittank ran away or why his body was never found. The only thing is the non-evidential claim of internet trolls, amateur sleuths, or concerned citizens who watched the Lars Mittank video and claim to have seen him somewhere in the world. Lars Mittank could be blamed for getting into a fight, however, the drug might have endangered him. The next chilling story remains very disturbing because of the inability to explain the cause and the suspect. Number 4. The murder of real estate agent Lindsay Buziak. In 2008, Lindsay Buziak, a 24-year-old junior real estate agent in Victoria, British Columbia, received a call from a woman who said that she and her husband were urgently seeking a home with a budget of $1 million. The caller, with the foreign accent, offered what was later determined to be a fake name. The nature of the call raised suspicion in the heart of Buziak, not just because of the huge money she would benefit from it, but for the fact that the caller called her personal line despite the fact she was a junior realtor. The caller made her believe she got the number from a customer, but that wasn't enough to ease Buziak from her suspicion. She would later inform Jason Zylo, her boyfriend at the time, who was also a son of a wealthy family in the real estate business. Her boyfriend encouraged her to give it a try, considering how much she would make from the deal as a junior realtor, also promising to go with her. Buziak found a suitable property worth the amount requested and arranged an appointment with the client to view the home at 5:30 p.m. on Saturday, February 2, 2008. On the evening of that day, Buziak and Zylo ate a late lunch at a restaurant where they parted ways. Although he was running late, Zylo planned to pick up a friend at an automobile repair before joining Buziak. Buziak went home to dress up and head to meet her client, aware that Zylo would join later. The house was located at D'Souza Place, at the outer end of the cul-de-sac. The lady caller had told Buziak that she was coming alone, only for Buziak to meet a man and woman. At 5:30 p.m., two witnesses around the street saw a 6-foot-tall white man with dark hair and a blonde-haired woman between 35 and 45 years of age, wearing a distinctively patterned dress, walking up the cul-de-sac. Both men were unknown in the neighborhood, and according to them, Buziak greeted them in a way that shows she didn't know them before. Zylo would later arrive at the place with his friend, but at this time, Buziak and the two clients had entered the house. Zylo claimed he saw a figure at the front glass door on his arrival. He waited outside to avoid being nosy into Buziak's business, a mistake he would forever regret. After 20 minutes of waiting, Zylo texted Buziak to confirm that the situation was normal, but Buziak never opened the message. After 20 minutes had passed since Zylo had arrived and seen the couple go back into the house, Zylo went to the front door and found it locked when he tried to open it. Through the mottled glass on the front door, he saw Buziak's shoe in the entrance hall, but there was no sign of movement, and no one answered his repeated knocks at the door, so he dialed 911. While Zylo was on the phone with the operator, his colleague found a gap in the fence in the back garden, entered the garden, and saw that the back door was wide open. He summoned Zylo, who told the operator that the two men were entering the house. Zylo's colleague passed through the main level of the house to unlock the front door to allow Zylo, who immediately ran upstairs. What he saw was the body of Buziak lying in a pool of blood in the master bedroom. She had been stabbed a lot of times in her back. Zylo called 911 a second time and emergency services arrived, but they could not save her. Buziak was pronounced dead when the paramedics arrived. There were no defensive wounds, indicating that it was likely that she had first been stabbed from behind and had no indication of what was about to happen. None of Buziak's possessions had been stolen, and she had not been sexually assaulted. Investigations revealed the cell phone used by the unknown woman to call Buziak was purchased in Vancouver several months before the murder and had never been used until the call was placed. It was activated under the name of Paulo Rodriguez, which authorities consider to be a fake name. It was registered to a legitimate business address in Vancouver, but it is believed that the business has no connection with the case and that its address was simply chosen at random. The phone was deactivated soon after the murder and has not been used since. Authorities believe that the phone was used for the sole purpose of the murder and was discarded afterwards, which strengthened their conviction that the murder had been carefully planned. Police arrested Zylo and his friend and subjected Zylo to a lot of investigation that proved him innocent. His parents too were investigated but were proven innocent. The only strong lead they had were on Buziak's ex-boyfriend friend, a drug dealer who about 8 weeks before her murder, Buziak tried to contact while on a visit to Calgary. It was speculated that Buziak's murder may have been ordered by a drug cartel because she was believed to be a police informant. The detectives investigated that possibility, but quickly eliminated it as a motive because Buziak was not an informant, and the personal nature of her murder did not fit a hired killer's method of operation. More investigation has been carried out on different possible leads, but no success. Until today, Buziak's murder remains unsolved without an answer to who called Buziak and why she was killed. Before we move on to the next story, how far can human traffickers hide their victim? This next story is a chilling case that raises an eyebrow to child trafficking, but it's just a speculation. There might be more to the story than child trafficking. Number 3. The Missing Paper Boys. It's a bizarre case that has baffled Iowa for years. On September 5, 1982, 12-year-old Johnny Gosch left his house in the suburb of West Des Moines, Iowa, with a canvas delivery bag, a red wagon, and his dog, Gretchen, shortly after 5:45 a.m. It's been his norm to deliver newspapers every morning, and on this day, he was delivering Sunday editions of Des Moines Register. Around 6 a.m., Johnny arrived at his usual street corner where a delivery van usually drops off bundles of newspapers for him and another paperboy. They sort out their papers and neatly fold them into their different bags. It wasn't long after, another vehicle pulled down asking for directions from the two boys. After giving directions to the motorist, they separated ways. It was after a few minutes apart, the other paperboy saw an unknown man talking with John, but couldn't tell in the pre-dawn dimness if it was the same man who they had given directions to, because neither Johnny nor his dog appeared distressed. The boy continued his way to deliver his paper. Unknown to him, that would be the last time of seeing Johnny. About an hour and a half later, a regular customer of Johnny's telephoned Johnny's house, wanting to know where his paper was. Concerned, Johnny's father went looking for his son and quickly discovered Johnny's red wagon, still full of papers, abandoned at a corner on his route. Johnny's dog had returned home alone. Around 8:30 a.m., Johnny's mother, Noreen, called the police. Unfortunately, this time was around 1982, when many law enforcement agencies across the U.S. still observed a 24 to 72-hour mandatory waiting period before filing a missing persons report, even for a minor, and often treated missing adolescent cases as runaways. Johnny's case was no exception. It was 45 minutes before the West Des Moines Police Department arrived, and during their interview asked Johnny's parents, "Has your son ever run away before?" When it was clear that Johnny wasn't one of the runaway children, an estimated 30 officers were summoned by that afternoon to help friends and neighbors search for Johnny. But the WDMPD and Department of Criminal Investigation were reluctant to involve the FBI, telling the Gosches, "We do not consider Johnny to be in danger until you, his parents, prove his life is in danger." The case wasn't taken with more intensity than this, even though Johnny's parents didn't relent in their search for their child. Just while still unraveling this case reluctantly, a similar case happened in a close neighborhood. Another newspaper boy has gone missing. On the morning of August 12, 1984, 13-year-old Eugene Martin left his house in a South Side Des Moines neighborhood around 5 a.m. to deliver Sunday editions of the Des Moines Register. He arrived at his pickup corner around 5:15 a.m., collected the bundles from the delivery van driver, and sat down to start folding them. According to Register stories, several passerby witnessed seeing Eugene talking to an unfamiliar man in what looked to be a friendly conversation as he filled his delivery bag. That was the last time anyone would see Eugene. After about 45 minutes, Eugene left home. A woman called Eugene's route manager, saying she hadn't received her paper yet. Thinking Eugene had overslept, the route manager went to the corner and was surprised to find Eugene's delivery bag with 10 rolled papers inside, but no Eugene. The route manager, not sure of what had happened to Eugene, delivered the papers himself, then went to Eugene Martin's house, hoping to see the lad and also to speak with Eugene's father, Don. When Don realized Eugene hadn't returned home, he started searching the neighborhood but found no trace of his son. He called the police around 8:40 a.m. Learning from the Gosh case in WDM, a different jurisdiction, the Des Moines Police Department responded immediately by sending out all-points bulletins, APBs, setting up roadblocks, canvassing neighborhoods within the hour, and involving the FBI by that afternoon. Their search lasted for days, weeks, and years, but no single trace was found to give them a hint as to whether they are dead or alive, and if they are kidnapped, which many believe, no trace of the kidnappers has been found. Today, Johnny Gosh has been missing for 38 years, and Eugene Martin for 36 years. Both cases are still technically open in the West Des Moines Police Departments, and even though neither boy has been legally declared dead, both are presumed dead by authorities. Martin's parents are now dead about 2 decades ago, believing their son likely died shortly after his disappearance. But Noreen Gosh, Johnny's mother, still holds on to hope that she'll one day have the answers about her son's fate. Not everyone is aware of how a minute can change and make a lot of stories. The next story is not just rare, but would remain a mystery to demystify. It remains one of those chilling cases that would make you sick if you think too much about it. Number 2. The disappearance of Brian Schaefer, who went missing from Columbus, Ohio. On March 31, a Friday, an event that would forever leave Ohio State University and America at large baffled. Brian Schaefer, a 27-year-old student of Ohio State University, went out with a friend, William Clint Florence, at 9 p.m. They met at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a bar in the South Campus Gateway complex on High Street in Columbus. Brian and Florence went bar hopping, visiting several other drinking establishments and working their way down to the Arena District. At each stop, the two had 1 shot each of hard liquor. An hour after that, Brian called his girlfriend, Alexis Wagner, who had gone back home to Toledo before the couple was expected to leave on a trip to Miami. After midnight, both friends met a colleague, Meredith Reed, who suggested they go back to Ugly Tuna for a drink. When it was about time to leave, Brian tells Clint he was going back in to give his compliments to the band and he'll be right back. Meredith and Clint waited for Brian for a few minutes, but when he doesn't come back, they check the restrooms and look around the bar for him. It was 2 a.m. and the bar was closing, so Meredith and Clint assume he was already outside waiting for them. They head down the escalator to realize Brian isn't there either. After a long wait and watching carefully, all the patrons pour down the escalator and onto the busy street. They call Brian several times. Eventually, they assume that Brian just left without telling them. Brian didn't show up at home that night. Since then, different persons including his girlfriend would call and receive no reply. Everyone who was at that bar that night was seen on camera leaving the bar, except for one person, Brian. His sudden disappearance wasn't reported. It wasn't until Monday morning, when Brian misses a long-scheduled flight to Florida, that his family was sure something is wrong. They call the Columbus police. Detectives watched minute-by-minute footage of the entrance and exit to the bar, hoping to get a clue on which direction Brian heads when he leaves to find their next focus of investigation. Carefully looking at every face leaving the Ugly Tuna that night, riding down the escalators, and not one of them was Brian. All other footage also came out the same. They go to the street footage from other local businesses, but Brian wasn't seen. The building was later searched by cadaver dogs. No indication of Brian anywhere within the building, including the parts of the building which are described as under construction or around it. It was certain that Brian didn't leave the bar, and if he didn't leave the bar, where was he hidden in the bar for almost 20 years so that he could not be seen? While there are different theories about Brian's whereabouts and what happened to him, there is no evidence to support the theories. Schaefer was 27 years old when he went missing and would now be 42. BCI's forensic criminal artist has constructed an age-progressed image of what Brian may look like now. Investigators hope that the new image may prompt the public to submit tips to law enforcement. The last story in this video is not like the rest. It remains a mystery because some few evil men needed to be. The fact that the large community around this extremely disturbing case are left in the dark about the origin and resolution of this tragedy make it one of the true unsolved tragic cases. Number 1. The Nigerian House of Horror. March 22, 2014. The Nigerian community identified as the largest city in West Africa, Ibadan, became a scene of horror for the world after bike riders, taxi drivers uncovered what would later be called the Forest of Horror, also known as the Ibadan House of Horror or Soka in the native language. Before this time, people in the community of Soka, Ibadan always have been complaining of foul smell, but no one would imagine how foul the foul smell was, until another incident that has been a reoccurring incident happened. A bike rider was kidnapped and taken into a forest in Soka. Luckily, he has a small phone hidden in his pants, which the kidnappers didn't take note of. He contacted his loved ones through the phone, described where he was taken to them, and that was the last time to hear from him. His loved ones with bike men and the taxi drivers invaded the forest, only to find a dilapidated building with a lot of freshly murdered people, a lot of bones and decomposing bodies with missing body parts. The building is believed to have been used for human trafficking and ritual sacrifices. 23 survivors were rescued from the building. The case, which received global attention and criticism, later began to subside as many believe the activities that occurred in the forest have been coordinated by unknown kidnappers and ritualists in the state who are often supported by some affluent Nigerians and politicians who use human flesh for rituals. Despite the current governor of the state being accused, the government has refused to launch a deep investigation, and till now, no suspects have been arrested as the owner or sponsor of the building activities. The federal government are silent about it, and what's more chilling is that the buildings on the site have since been demolished and it has been redeveloped into a secondary school. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. And most importantly, please subscribe and ring the bell. That way you'll be notified every time we upload a new video.